16th through the 22nd is National Teen Driver Safety Week. According to the U.S. Department of Transportation, this week and every week, parents should have conversations with their teens about the important rules that they need to follow to stay safe behind the wheel of a motor vehicle. These rules address the greatest dangers for teen drivers: alcohol, inconsistent or no seatbelt use, distracted and drowsy driving, speeding, and a number of passengers. Joining me to talk about this and more is the City of Sheridan Police Department Captain Tom Ringley and Lieutenant Dan Keller. Good morning, officers.
Good morning, Floyd.
Morning.
Now, how's your fall going?
Really well.
Yeah? Everything kind of clicking along? What's your favorite season if you were to actually pick one?
Oh, it would probably be fall. I like things cooling off, and it's just a fun time of year.
My wife's the same way. It's all about the temperature.
Okay.
It's all about the temperature. She's not one of those people who enjoys the sun or the heat.
Yeah, I know our officers on the street like it.
Oh, yeah.
It gets a little toasty in the summer with all the gear they wear, and then in the winter it's just too cold. So
I can only imagine.
Fall and spring are probably our favorite times of year.
Those vests, I bet they can get heavy and hot throughout the course of a shift.
They do, and a lot of people might wonder why we started wearing the external body carriers. We offer that as external body armor carriers. It gives the officers a chance to take the vest off when they're in the station piping and lets them cool down a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And also it's breathing room. The vests are fairly tight, so you don't get a lot of circulation.
I'll tell you, we had to hand in our body armor in Iraq, and we had to scrub it beforehand as if they were going to reuse it.
Yeah.
I'm here to tell you, there are stains on that stuff that it wasn't coming out.
Yeah.
Ever.
Well, all quiet in the Western Front, they're wondering what the patches on their uniforms are for. Because they've been used before by someone else. So it might have got recycled, but it is what it is. But everything we can do to keep our guys comfortable, it's a good thing. But fall's good for us. Our numbers don't necessarily drop in regards to call response, but the types of calls move away from the summer alcohol related calls to the more towards quality of life calls.
Really?
Yeah.
So there is a drop.
There's a lull. The alcohol calls pick up in the winter. As the holiday season.
Yeah, the holidays
arrives.
approach.
So it's probably our favorite thing about fall is it gives us a little bit of a break.
Get a chance to catch your breath in a way.
Yeah.
Now, tell me why this week is so important and why having these conversations, and this is kind of self-explanatory, but why are these conversations so vital?
Well, it's kind of like Mother's Day. Every day should be Mother's Day. Every week should be Teen Driver Safety Week. Yeah. But this puts a label and a name to the week. And this is a week where parents should discuss safe driving with their children. The habits we learn first are the habits that tend to stick with us throughout our life. So our stance is let's not let any bad driving habits get instilled in our children. Let's instill the good habits that will last them a lifetime. Also, anytime anyone's learning a new skill, it can be a little bit daunting. So it's good to sit down and just reinforce all the safe habits that we all need to have.
Yeah, yeah. Do you remember who taught you how to drive, sir?
I do. Yeah. I was lucky, though. I learned to drive on Maxwell Air Force Base in Alabama with my dad. So that was an extremely controlled environment.
Absolutely.
With a lot of roads in the middle of nowhere. It was a fairly large base. I remember vividly. And I also remembered the lessons that I learned. Stop means stop. A red light's a red light. The speed limit's the speed limit. Check in every direction and then check again. And I still remember those. And that's because I wasn't allowed out driving until my parents were fully confident that I knew what I was doing and that I'd do the right thing.
Yeah. I can remember a rule that I was told. 2 seconds. Come to a stop, and that stop should last at least 2 seconds.
Yep.
Even if you take a look and there's no one coming. 1,000, 1,000, fully stopped, and then you take off. LT, do you remember?
Yeah, my father taught me to drive, yeah.
Yeah? Out on a county road? Or?
Yep. yelling at each other, trying to figure out how to operate a stick shift. And yeah.
I can remember that too. The old stick shifts. We don't see a lot of those.
No, I think that's a pretty diminished skill if you can drive a stick shift.
Yeah, it's probably the best anti-theft deterrent for a vehicle.
Yeah, buy stick, right? And they're not going to be able to get off with it. Now, when we look at learning how to drive, those of us who've served in the military know that there are both defensive and offensive courses. Where should a teen and new drivers in general look for guidance in developing these safe driving habits? I know a lot of times there's often classes that are held or websites that you can go to.
Yeah.
Where do you refer folks?
I refer now, as of the last month or so, I refer people to our traffic school, which Lieutenant Keller holds on, which I'm sure he puts on, which I'm sure he'd be glad to talk to you about.
Yeah.
But we'd encourage everyone to drive defensively. There should be no ego involved in passing people or worrying about what other people are doing, other than watch them. Be ready to react. Kind of plan for every contingency while you're driving.
Absolutely.
Don't try to beat the yellow light. Don't do this. If there's an option, if there's a safe option and a less safe option, take the safest option. As I say all the time on this show, it's like, this is Sheridan. An extra 5 miles an hour is you're really not going to get anywhere any quicker. And if it matters that much, then give yourself an extra 2 minutes on your schedule so you can take your time and drive safely.
Absolutely. Be a little more aware of the time.
Yeah.
If you need to get somewhere on time.
Yeah. I think that the kids these days tend to feel hurried all the time.
Yeah.
And they're under an immense amount of pressure, thanks to things like social media. But driving's the one area where parents should teach their kids to take their time and be safe. They probably, we do worry about students from the high school trying to get to restaurants and back during lunch hour. That's probably where we receive our most complaints on child driving.
Yeah.
Is just the fast speeds, because they don't have time to
run down the hill,
run down the hill and back up, because that's where we receive our most complaints and quite a few of our traffic issues.
Yeah. And
that's something else to talk to parents to talk to your kids about. If you don't have time to do something, don't do it. I mean, we won't discuss the feasibility of letting the amount of time they have for lunch, but for anything, if this tell your kids to slow down, take your time, and if you can't make something happen, then don't try.
Exactly. If there's not enough time to get down that hill and get back up and make it to class on time, maybe you should take something to school for lunch.
Yes.
LT, tell me about this driving school.
Yeah, we're really excited about it. We've been working on this for about a year to get it in place, and had our first class during this month. Had 6 participants, and we already have, I think, a dozen signed up for the next class.
Oh, that's great.
So we're excited about that.
And now, how many can you have in a class at one time?
Right now, we're limited at 15 right now.
And if a listener out there is thinking, you know what, this would be a great idea, how do they join up?
So a lot of them, judges are signing up for them.
Yeah.
But it's open to anybody, and we did have one in the first session, I think a couple this session that just did call and want to sign up. And just, if you're interested in that or want more information, just call the police department and ask for Lieutenant Keller, and I can discuss it with you and get you signed up for that, or your kids signed up for it.
LT, what are some of the things that you go over?
Quite a bit of stuff, actually. It's 4 different sessions, so it's 4 nights from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m., so it's 8 hours total. Just everything: common causes of accidents, importance of seatbelt usage, the dangers of distracted driving. Really hit those 2 things really heavy. Wear your seatbelts. Don't use your phone, right? We hit those really heavy. Talk about DUIs a lot. And we also, more than just how to drive, we spend a good amount of time explaining what the Sheridan Police Department does for traffic enforcement, how we do it, why we do it, strategies used. Because while the bulk of it is driver's education, a lot of it is community relations too, and us having that interaction in the community and then learning about what we do and how we do it.
Is most of this classroom instruction?
Yeah, it's all classroom.
It's all classroom instruction. We're not going out and practicing parallel parking or anything like that. Although I'm pretty sure there's some folks out there who are looking for good lessons in that. It's really strange. I drove one of the largest things that the Wyoming Military Department owned, and I could parallel park that thing anywhere. My own car, can't do it. Can't do it. I don't know why. I don't know what the heck that is. But sure enough, when you talk about a 40-ton vehicle, I can do that. Yeah. Anything else, for some reason, it just didn't click. Now, are there defensive driving courses offered online or anything that you know of that we can look at on the web and maybe pick up some driving hints and tips?
I'm not aware of any specific, but I'm sure one could if they looked. It's and anything's better than nothing. Maybe, but as far as specific classes for young people to take, I'm not aware of any.
I know I've talked about this before with you, Captain, but in the military, we were able to take a defensive driving course online.
Yep.
And then once we got that certification, we were able to turn it into our insurance.
Right.
And that actually dropped our rates a little bit. Not a whole lot, but a couple bucks here is a couple bucks here. So
every bit helps. There are all types of discounts for young drivers, to include good student discounts. So people should absolutely look, because we obviously can't cover everything in 8 hours. So an online course may have some information that we don't present.
Yeah, and when it comes to teen driving, it can get pretty risky out there. So we want to make sure that we're giving them every possibility in the world to learn as much as they possibly can. I got a teen driver. Makes me nervous every time she talks about it. But again, like you said, Captain, going over those small rules, because I still hear that voice in the back of my head. 2 seconds.
And a good teen driver will turn into a good adult driver.
Yeah.
I kind of used an analogy of shooting. We sometimes hire people that have some shooting experience, but probably not quite as good as they think they are. And then our firearms instructors have to not only have them unlearn bad habits, we still have to instill the good habits.
Absolutely.
Which is, front sight and trigger squeeze. But people tend to, for whatever reason, develop other techniques.
Well, like you said, sir, a lot of times it's ego.
Yeah.
We all kind of let our ego get in the way every now and then. I can remember my little girl growing up, we had a game that you got to put your hand on the roof of the car when the seatbelt was on. And so as soon as I see everyone's hands on the roof, then the car gets started and we go on.
Nice.
And because of that, to this day, she's pretty good about putting that seatbelt on when she gets in.
Yeah, and seatbelts, far and away the number one habit we should develop before we even start a vehicle. It's like seatbelts do save lives. I know some people don't. People think it infringes on their freedom somehow, but the fact of the matter is they do save lives.
I'll tell you, in my youth, I was one of those that jumped in a car and just thought, let's go. Don't bother with this thing. I started to actually put the seatbelt on. And I'd say within a 2-week period, I can remember that once I got the seatbelt on, then I felt like I was ready to go. The habit had developed. Yeah. And now if I'm not wearing a seatbelt, I feel naked in a vehicle.
Yeah. And as we discussed last show, some of the impacts on the other impacts from activities, let's think about the emergency room. If seatbelts cut down on emergency room visits, which helps the hospital out, and it just goes on forever. But our primary reason is we just don't want anyone to get hurt.
Absolutely.
And begins and stops with that. We don't want one more person to get hurt because they're not wearing a seatbelt or driving safely.
When we return, we're going to continue with the Sheridan Police Department. This is Public Pulse at 930 KROE and 103.9 FM. Sheridan.
I'm Michael Lansing, and I'm running for trustee of the Sheridan County School District Number 2. To set the record straight and stop any rumors, I am not the attorney suing the school district. However, I have represented teachers, parents, school districts, and students around the state of Wyoming in various school matters. I am running to ensure all voices are heard. I will push for public comment and build back public trust in a civil matter. We are a great school district. I will strive to make it even better. I am pro-teacher, pro-parent, and most importantly, pro-student. Paid for by the candidate, Michael Lansing.
They're here.
Hi, Autumn Showtime Morris here with Homestar. Don't be scared. Let's get you qualified for a home loan that will get you out of this place. Speaking of Showtime, check out the scariest movies of all time bracket on SheridanMedia.com.
Hello, do you want to play a game?
Vote for your favorites. You'll be entered for a chance to win $100 in Chamber Bucks. Just go to SheridanMedia.com and check out the Homestar Scariest Movies of All Time bracket.
Hello, Clarice.
If you dare.
Homestar, your easiest way home. NMLS number 70864.
You know, the pioneers crossed the vast wilderness in covered wagons, yet today a lot of their offspring actually have to set alarms to remind them when to drink water. If you're needing water, all you have to do is call 307 Wildcat Well Service, a local company that specializes in locating water, drilling and pumps, even solar-powered water wells. So for water wells and all that goes with them, look for 307 Wildcat Well Service in the Country Bounty, and you too will have cool, clean water. Water.
Everyone's story is different, but one thing is always true. Your trade-in is just as important to the equation as the new vehicle. Hi, this is Brad at Primary Motors, and we recently had a customer whose trade-in had been taken care of like it was part of the family and had sentimental attachment. We already had a local customer in mind, and they knew each other. Both of our customers were glad that they had come to Primary Motors that day. See us today at Primary Motors, 2305 Coffin Avenue, or online at primarymotors.com.
Sheridan College Alumni Network presents Resilient Leadership, a leadership impact luncheon on Wednesday, October 26th from noon until 1. The featured speaker will be Jen Krause, the Sheridan College Vice President of Student Affairs and Executive Director of Sheridan College Foundation. The Resilient Leadership Luncheon is just $20 per person or $10 for Sheridan College alumni. To register, please visit SheridanCollegeFoundation.org or call 675-0700.
Good morning. Welcome back to Public Pulse. I'm Floyd Whiting. Soon, the sidewalks in the neighborhoods will be taken over by monsters, ghouls, heroes, and ghosts. The Sheridan police will be out there as well, and they would like every one of those little creatures to make it home safely and enjoy their candy hoards. Captain, let's start with the kids. What are some things we should keep in mind when we're choosing costumes?
First and foremost, we would advise parents to make sure that the children's costumes are visible. Don't go out dressed like the cat burglar or anything, dressed all in black. Let's be safe and have some reflective materials on the costume. I think some candy buckets are reflective, and also flashlights are a wonderful thing. It's going to be really dark. It's already dark by 6:30 or 7 now, and on the 31st, it's going to be darker. So let's keep safety as our main priority.
And they sell some really great stuff that kids can pack around. If they're reluctant to put a reflective belt on their Batman costume, that's fine.
Yeah.
Mom's got a flashlight and a glow-in-the-dark candy bucket for you.
That's right. And then secondly, this, once again, back to child safety, let's remind our children how to cross the street. When they are trick-or-treating, we know kids get excited and everything because it is a fun holiday, but still need to stay safe. People are still trying to get from point A to point B, and drivers, let's not get too frantic when driving children around from point A to point B either. Let's everyone once again take our time and be safe.
Absolutely. When we had the horde of kids, we used to pull up to a block and then let the kids out, and they'd run the block. And we'd pick them up at the end, and then take them to the next block. And that's how we like to run.
That's
things.
probably a safe. We see parents driving kids from door to door on the same block, which kind of congests the traffic in the neighborhoods. But whatever turns people on, let's just do it safely. And keep an eye out for the little kids that are having a good time.
Absolutely, because even though it's a good thing to go over all these little rules with the kids again, we got to keep in mind they are kids.
Yes.
They're going to be more concerned about hitting the big house that hands out the full-size candy bars than they are about crossing that street.
Yeah, and I've already put in our order to have our people buy a bunch of candy. So we should be out at some of those points, A's and B's, with our patrol cars handing out candy if we have people available.
Oh, that's fantastic. So it's okay if kids see some officers sitting in their car if they walk up and trick or treat.
It'd be obvious that they're there to hand out candy.
Okay.
So, some of the officers might be keeping an eye on traffic, and we don't want people walking up to them, but it'd be very obvious that they're there to hand out candy.
Perfect. LT, what do you like to do for Halloween?
At this stage of my life, nothing.
Go to bed early?
Yeah, exactly. Right. As a patrol officer, it's a busy night to work sometimes. The Halloween weekend, like from 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock, you see a lot of kids out. It's a lot of fun to say hi to them. They're excited to see everybody. From 10 o'clock to 2 in the morning, you see adults acting like kids that have different reactions that can also certainly be entertaining. But yeah, it can be a busy weekend.
Yeah. Now, I think Halloween falls on a Monday this year, doesn't it?
I think so.
Which means that the Sheridan PD may end up having a pretty busy weekend.
We do, and sometimes it's hard to figure out if they're going to do it, if the bars have their parties the weekend before or the weekend after. And they can have a costume party anytime they want to. But it does tend to be busy. I think it was probably 4 or 5 Halloweens ago when Lieutenant Keller, I rode around with Lieutenant Keller for the night, and it was ridiculously busy, mainly people thinking the costumes would prevent them from getting caught drinking underage. It was an interesting night, but we'd remind adults like every night, don't drink and drive. We know it's a holiday and we know it's a special event and there'd be themed parties, but be safe.
Yeah.
And for the most part, the local establishments that the bars that they'll have events, and for the most part, they're really responsible with that, and they follow a lot of best practices, and they understand the importance that the best way for them to do business is to make sure things are safe, and we see that from most of the bar owners here. This week, I actually had a bar owner call me requesting more police presence, more walkthroughs in their bars. So we just enjoy that partnership and people trying to do things safely.
Yeah, and I can remember when I worked at a bar, every time the police walked through, it was like a breath of fresh air. So, okay, everyone knows that they're around, so situations suddenly became a lot calmer in the room when the police arrived.
Yeah, we're trying to prevent problems before they're problems.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you, gentlemen, for coming in today and helping out with some of these classes and helping the kids, even if they are sometimes court ordered to do so. We greatly appreciate you teaching that class, LT.
Yeah,
that's a great opportunity. Folks, if you get an opportunity, you want to learn more about driving, the LT's teaching a class. All you got to do is call down to the department. Gentlemen, be safe out there.
Thank you, Floyd.
Thanks, Floyd.
All right, when we come back, we're going to talk to the chief of the Buffalo Police Department. This is Public Pulse on 930 KROE and 103.9 FM, Sheridan.
At Eliason Financial, money management isn't just about dollars and cents. It's about dreams and opportunities, and more importantly, family. We'll take time to get to know you. Then we'll develop a unique wealth management plan that works hard, just like you. To learn more about who we are and what our wealth management advisors can do for you, visit Eliason Financial online or call 307-672-3010. Securities offered through Royal Alliance Associates, Inc., member FINRA, SIPC.
If love is 'tis a sickness, and find me no cure, for 'tis only love that I know to be pure. Oh, sweet Nigel, what do I do? Your poetry moves me in indescribable ways. It makes me want to sing and dance and see the encore performances of Something Rotten at the YO Theater.
Then what's stopping you?
Oh, you startled me. You see, my Puritan father would never approve.
Come on. This is the 16th century. It's time to loosen that corset.
Yes, but Something Rotten is a musical. A very funny musical starring my dearest love. He would never understand.
Well, you're going to miss one of the best shows of the year if you keep with that attitude. And it's only playing October 20th through the 23rd.
You're right. To thine own self be true. I'll get my tickets at yotheater.com for an encore performance of Something Rotten.
Huzzah! Welcome to the Renaissance and the YO Theater.
Parker Mellinger provides business advisory services tailored for you specifically to help your business become compliant, tax efficient, organized, and strategically aligned with your goals. Think of us as part of your team. You will rest more comfortably knowing that you are covering all your financial bases and making an informed decision. Contact us today at Parker Mellinger. Our focus is where you're going, not where you've been.
When the unexpected happens, you may wonder what's next. Champion Funeral Home can help you through this phase of life. They provide support and personal services while helping you create a meaningful tribute to your loved one. Champion Funeral Home has been locally owned and operated since 1911, providing compassion and care to Sheridan and Johnson County. Visit Champion Funeral Home at championfh.com or call 674-6329.
The weather is so unpredictable this time of year. Is your vehicle or tires ready? Chris Hayden with Hammer Chevrolet.
Bob, with our tire price match guarantee, you don't have to wait for a tire sale. We carry all the brand name tires at the guaranteed lowest price. If your vehicle's in need of any mechanical repairs, we have the latest in diagnostic and repair equipment. We offer an oil change, tire rotation, and 27-point inspection. Hammers is your full-service dealership, and we value your business. Schedule online at hammerchevy.com or call us.
Good morning and welcome back to Public Pulse. I'm Floyd Whiting. Now, I often talk about the scams that hit our communities. These criminals use phones, emails, texts, anything they can use to scam our residents out of their hard-earned money. And all too often, these are geared to victimize our seniors in our communities. This morning, I am joined by Chief of the Buffalo Police Department, Sean Bessette. Good morning, Chief.
Good morning, Floyd. How are you today?
I'm good, sir. It's a nice fall day. The weather is cooling down, so I can actually keep the doors open in the evenings, which is pretty nice.
I love it. Favorite time of year, for sure.
Man, the heat this summer just got to me. Chief, can you tell us about this recent scam that's been brought to your attention over there in Buffalo?
Absolutely. So, Floyd, last week we received, we've been dealing with scams since day one here, but for some reason last week, our businesses were targeted here in Buffalo. We were receiving multiple calls, not just for us, but also throughout Johnson County. And they would call, they would ask for the manager of the business. That manager would get on the phone, introduce themselves. The person on the other line would, now they knew their name, would say, for instance, John, we're just calling to let you know that you missed jury duty and you need to pay a fine or there's going to be a warrant for your arrest. I think we had about 4 or 5 calls come in back to back where they just went down the line of some businesses here in town. Unfortunately, a young lady got that phone call, thought it was legit, ended up sending approximately $1,400 through a cash app.
Wow.
So, the old thinking was it was targeting our senior citizens. Myself and Sheriff Odenbaugh did about an hour-long class over at the senior center, and every single one had a story to tell. Luckily for them, a lot of them know now, we're being scammed. If it's too good to be true, it is. And my biggest thing, Floyd, is at no point in time ever will a law enforcement agency call and, 1, tell you that you are wanted, 2, make you pay via telephone, through a gift card, through a cash app. That will never happen. So I really, really need to reiterate that. I know that's probably the other person on the phone here, they're getting a call from who they're thinking is the police. The phone number is coming from a 307 number in this instance, so it's not like a scam number that comes up. And they're so good now, Floyd, that actually we had some calls where they had ghosted the number to this criminal justice center here. So people are thinking, well, this has got to be legit. It's coming from the same number as the CJC.
Wow.
So, yeah. So with that being said, there are a lot of different apps out there. There's something called TextNow, Pinger. I don't know if you've heard about those. But basically, they're just generated phone numbers that you get through an app. So it's not like you can even trace it through Sprint or Verizon or AT&T. These companies basically buy and sell phone numbers to this app service. So tracking these numbers can be difficult as well. But yes, at no point in time will law enforcement ever call you on the phone, tell you have a warrant, and have to pay in Apple gift cards or a Cash App. So please, for the folks out there, I need them to know that.
And I've heard of so many of these scams trying to tug on heartstrings. That they'll take a chance and say your nephew's in jail, he needs bail, or the warrant for jury duty. This is the first time I've heard about jury duty.
Yep.
But I have heard about there's a warrant, or we'll put out a warrant for your arrest if you don't pay this fine and X, Y, Z.
Or the IRS calls and it's, hey, you owe the IRS money and you need to pay now, or there's going to be, consequences. So my suggestion, Floyd, is if you have a question, call here or come in person, because there's not a lot of information that we give out over the phone. If somebody was to call and say, hey, do I have a warrant? That information is never going to be given to you over the phone regardless. That's just, we don't know who we're talking to. That's private information. That's information that we hold close. And so we're not ever going to say that over the telephone.
And so just hang up the phone. If you think, even if there's an inkling, this might not be legitimate, hang up the phone and call the company, call law enforcement.
Yes.
And just ask. Did you call me? Chief, in this day and age, first off, you would never make this kind of call, obviously. But in this day and age, if the law enforcement center or the justice center over there had to make a phone call to somebody, A, they're never going to talk about you being wanted. And B, if there is information that they need from you and you were to hang up and call them back, I really doubt the dispatch is going to be upset by that.
Absolutely not. Our dispatchers know. I mean, they fielded the calls that day. It had to be 5 or 6 different calls within an hour where they hit Domino's, they called The Fix, they called Ace Hardware, they called McDonald's. I mean, they were going through the list of businesses, which I find is a little different. I mean, like you said, this is the first time the jury duty, but this is also, why are they calling the businesses and not individual people at this point, right?
Yeah.
I think it's because you can get that name very quick. Hi, I'm Sean. I'm the chief at the Buffalo Police Department. That's how you're going to answer the phone. So now they know your name. So, hey, Sean, I just want to let you know you missed jury duty. And, man, they can get in real quick, and they're good at what they do.
I've often talked about there's been 2 instances where they had so much information on me and where I had lived in the past. They almost got me.
Yeah.
But the moment he said, you're going to have to pay 200, and it was like 280 something. It was a very odd number,
right?
Which it's a tactic that they use.
Yep.
They're not going to ask for anything straight. $300 even, $299. No. You owe $285.45 or some crazy random number like that.
Yep.
He almost got me because of that, but I knew better.
There's so much of our information that is out there, Floyd, that any search engine can find. You Google our names. I mean, you can get a lot of information, and then you can pay different sites to get where you've lived, previous addresses, previous phone numbers, known associates, relatives. It's kind of scary.
It really is. And unfortunately, we end up kind of sharing the majority of that information online via social media. We're more than happy to put our entire lives up there. And then, we're just going to call it the human condition, because once somebody uses that against us, we throw our hands up and go, I don't know how they found it.
Right.
Well, it's pretty easy.
Yeah,
Just go to your Facebook and I can see everything.
Yep. Even I know when you go away, some folks say, hey, I'm on the airport on my way to Florida. And now people look and say, well, I know that house is empty.
Exactly. Exactly. Make sure you know what you're sharing, folks, and make sure that either everything that you have is switched onto a private type of account so random folks can't get in there and see that. There are security measures that you can take, but I would say nothing's impervious.
Correct. They're good. I hate to say it. They're good at what they do.
They really are. And I mean, these people make a very good living scamming us out of billions of dollars a year here in the United States. And I think one of the most unfortunate parts about this whole thing, Chief, is, you know, I'd say probably at least 3/4 of the time, they're out of country.
Correct.
And there's not much you could do when it comes to that, is there?
No. And, you know, another thing that they were asking for is to verify who you are. They're asking for your name, social security number, your driver's license number. And in the instance where the money was actually given, the victim's personal identification was also compromised. So that's another thing they're going for. So not only are they getting the money, well, now they have personal information that they can open up accounts in your name and they can open up, you know, loans in your name. It's just it's terrible.
That poor girl's nightmare may have just begun.
Yes, absolutely.
Because then after that, you've got to notify your bank. You've got to notify everybody who has any kind of financial dealings with you.
Yes, sir. And, you know, constantly checking credit reports to make sure there's not accounts that are opened. And, you know, you go to you know, buy a home or a car, and all of a sudden there's like, well, there's these 3 red flags on your credit report, and you don't know about it because you don't know the accounts are even open.
Man, you know, and every time I think we're starting to get this nailed down, they come up with a different technique.
Right. They're, like I said, they're good at what they do.
Now, speaking of these individuals who exploit and take from citizens, there's also something going on with Buffalo's children. How are these scammers attempting to victimize our kids?
So, Floyd, and I know it's gotten probably a lot of airplay, but this is a problem actually through the whole state of Wyoming and across the country. We talk about social media, and we talk about how much information we give out, and Instagram, Facebook, and now even the gaming systems, the PlayStations and the Xboxes. You're playing online, and you might be playing with somebody that's halfway across the globe. So now these predators have now found out that they will groom kids. Right now, it seems like boys between the ages of 14 and 17 are probably the most targeted right now. And unfortunately, they develop relationships. You know, a young man or woman is online, you know, meets somebody else. They take their time. They groom this person thinking that they're in a relationship, and then they ask them to send them a compromising photo. That photo goes out. The minute that person gets that photo, now they tell them who they really are, Floyd. The term is sextortion right now. And then they say, you need to send us $500 to this account or this app. If you don't, we're going to send this to everybody you know, because what has happened is, Floyd, you've now friended this person. That person now has friended all your family, all your friends, and it's a 14-year-old boy. Can you imagine going to school knowing that maybe that entire school has a picture of you that you don't want out there? So the reason they're targeting these young men, they say, because they're less likely to tell somebody, whether it be a parent, law enforcement, a teacher. So that is really big right now. Chris McDonald from our DCI, who handles the crimes against children, he's the head there, and the FBI have been really working hard on this. And we've seen a lot of cases popping up here in Wyoming.
That is terrible. You know, I thought that even just social media was a problem, but now even kids sitting down to enjoy a video game with someone who they thought was a friend.
Correct.
You know, maybe they're thinking, wow, I play with someone over in Korea, or I get to play with someone in France, and they find out that this is just another criminal.
Correct. And this criminal, Floyd, will take their time to get to know this person, and they're going to find out, where is the weakness? Where can I get in? how can I get into this person's psyche, and is it a low self-esteem issue? Whatever it may be, they're going to find that weakness, and they're going to groom this person into thinking that they are in a serious relationship. And then, of course, the person on the other line, the minute they get what they need, they're using it against them. And, the sad thing is those images, and I have 2 girls, and I drill into every kid that I know, and we've talked about it in schools, is once you send that information out, it's out. It doesn't disappear. I don't care what you think about Snapchat, where it disappears in 30 seconds or whatever. That digital image is always there.
Yeah, and it's always available to these villains who have some sort of strange what do they call it? The dark web or something.
The dark web, yeah.
What should someone do, Chief, if they think, the individual on the other end of my child's video game might be nefarious? Have we seen any warning signs at all?
Well, Floyd, that comes down to the parents. We really have to be involved in our kids and what they're looking at, what they have access to, whether that's putting, like you said, the different privacy settings, and just checking. I mean, I hate to say it. I have a daughter that's a sophomore and one that's in 6th grade, and they have phones because we're not always available. And at any point in time, and maybe it's because I've done what I've done for so long, but my kids know that hand over your phone. I'm going through your phone. They need to know that. They need to know that there's going to be consequences if, and we just have to tell our kids they have to be open and free to come tell us, because there's nothing worse. I'm sure as a 14-year-old, can you imagine going to your mom and dad saying, hey, I sent a picture out and somebody's going to share it if I don't pay this money? I'm sure that's very difficult. So just parents being aware, checking, talking to their kids about it. I mean, you have to be open to the kids and let them know, look, if you start getting some weird messages, please come let us know, and then notify us, and then we will go through those. Our investigation will start. Like I said, we work closely with DCI and the FBI, so that might be something that's on their radar.
Yeah.
So I would just strongly suggest having that open conversation with your kids. If they have access to the internet with their phone or video games, they need to be aware of what's going on.
And, it is a very hard line to walk as a parent. I walked it with my daughter, trying to figure out what is invading her privacy and what is keeping her safe.
Correct.
It's hard to have that conversation, but I was lucky enough, I sat down with her and we went over that kind of stuff, because it is vital in this day and age to know not everybody on the other end of this thing is your friend.
Yeah, we didn't face those growing up, Floyd.
We didn't.
We didn't have those, and our kids are faced with a lot of technology is great, but man, I feel like they're faced with so much more than we were as kids.
And maybe it's a good idea to sit down with your son and have this conversation, or daughter. There's girls out there who like to game just as much. And just go through, who are your friends? Are you sure you know who your friends are? Maybe have this conversation tonight. Maybe have it at a point when you can sit down with them while they're gaming and just say, who's that person? Where do they live? What do they do?
Right.
Know who's talking to your children. Very tough conversations to have. Like you said, Chief, especially for a young man. For any young person, really, the shame involved in that's hard to overcome.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be difficult for an adult, let alone a tough time in your life like that. And so, just be mindful that what I can't, and we're talking about the scams, and we're talking about this. Just be mindful of who we're friending and what kind of information we're putting out over the internet.
Chief, if I think that I do have a scammer, what should I do?
Contact your local law enforcement, because also, there's tons of information online. There's an FBI website. You can even Google phone numbers, Floyd. You'll get a phone number, and a lot of times you'll just put that phone number in Google, and it'll come up as a scam number, that this is a number associated with a scam, and usually tells you what the scam is. So you can even do your own detective work, but don't ever hesitate to call us, report it. Because, again, a lot of times, whether it's the same phone number, a lot of times these phone numbers change, but the scam stays the same.
And we need to be aware of the techniques that they're using. They're trying to stay one step ahead, and they're constantly changing their MO. And so law enforcement needs this information from you folks. If you feel that you got a scammer, give them a ring. Let them know this is the technique that they use. This is what they were trying to get from me. Now, I've only got about 2 minutes left. Chief, tell me about the upcoming Monster March.
So the good news, let's end on some good news. Yeah,
Good
the
news,
Monster March is on Halloween. Our Monster March is going to be between 4 and 6 p.m. Main Street from Angus up to Fort and Main is going to be shut down. All the local businesses will be out there handing out candy. A bunch of us will be there, and looking forward to it. We actually have an event just prior to that it's going to be from, I think it's 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock in front of Meadowlark. They're going to do a trunk or treat for the kids there too, so that road will be blocked down in front of Burritt. So yeah, a lot of good stuff going on. Really looking forward to seeing all the kids and the folks coming out in the community and having a good time.
You know, this has always been one of my favorite events, Chief. I hope you get out there, have some fun with it, and I greatly appreciate you calling in today and keeping us aware of what's going on over there in Buffalo, especially with these scams.
Absolutely, Floyd. Always a pleasure.
All right, you've been listening to Public Pulse on 930 KROE, 103.9 FM, Sheridan.